Welcome, and we're live again for our fourth week. We missed a week last week to regain consciousness, I guess. We had a lot of quotes through. What we're noticing at the moment currently is that a lot of agencies and a lot of our corporate clients are now starting to get the feeling that we need to do something about this in the virtual space. And so what we did was we sort of took some time out to sort of put proposals together for clients, let them think about what it is that they want to do and work with them on putting some proposals together. So that's what we've done. In order to show you what we've done, I'm just going to go through a couple of slides here, if I can, if my thing can work. There we go. So in a nutshell, what it is that we've created is a very custom microsite, which basically looks like it sits on your website. It's hosted by us, so we've got the server that's very capable of handling big numbers, and we point it towards your domain. So if it's, for example, flightcasewarehouse.com/live or /virtual event or whatever the case may be. There was a huge plug to Flightcase Warehouse there. I'll be getting my commission from that a little bit later, hopefully. Effectively, it's integrated onto your domain so that your customers have that experience, and they'll sit on your website, so to speak, so that you maintain their concentration level. It's a fully customizable template, which effectively allows you to skin it any which way you want. So the design will look exactly the same as your website, and that's purposefully done that way so that the whole brand guideline and the journey and the experience remains the same. The registration portal can be used or not. It's entirely up to you. But what we've found is that you can track data. You can monitor the statistics of everybody once they've registered, as opposed to it being a free-for-all. As I've said, you can track the data, monitor the activity, and there's no development costs for this. We've produced this in-house with our young developing team, with Harry Bygrave at the head of that, and he has put this together so that we can then bring it to you, our customers, at a really affordable rate. And we're looking at something in the region of about £100 a month for the facility to host your own live stream, and that is to allow for as many live streams as you'd like. In terms of what modules there are, you've got the player, which sits obviously, as you can see right now, which is it allows for an encoded stream. You've got a sponsors module to the side. I don't know if it's one to this side or that side, but effectively that'll either be a plug or sort of a nod to your sponsors. It can be monetized as well, obviously. You've got an agenda section which is sitting below the player at the moment, which gives you the idea of what's coming up. You can also click on sections to download PDF documents or any kind of copy about the show, biographies of the speakers or whatever. There's a question section which you can send directly to me or the presenter, whoever it is, that then is going via either a moderator or direct to the presenter, but not viewable by the rest of the public. And I think that that's something we've noticed, that people are more keen on that, unless it's a socially driven site whereby chat is important. And for that, we have a chat function. So you can have a stream of chats going, and the community itself can engage and answer questions and ask questions, etc. And then there's, of course, the polling elements. Now, all of these modules are things that we've created to fit within a single site. A lot of these elements are things that you'd have to go to third-party suppliers, third-party apps, like with the polling. I forget the name of that. What's that site? Yes, whatever it is. And basically, we've allowed it to all sit in one platform. And we're back. So I cut that a bit short. And the reason I did that is we've got a different program today. We've got a co-host on, which has thrown the schedule out slightly. We've got some guests coming in from South Africa with some latency issues. But what we do have is a very, very exciting schedule ahead. Our next guest, I'm going to pre-roll with some of his achievements on the field. And let's just take a look at that before I bring him on. No, that's not it. Why is that not it? It's in the wrong order. All right, I tell you what. Let's just cut straight to Schalk. We'll get that slide sorted out in a minute. Schalk, how's it going, bro?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Good. I'm glad to see that you're here and all in one piece. How's so? We are all suffering lockdown right now. The first thing I want to ask you, because you hear about these stories worldwide. The South African lockdown was quite hardcore, and they brought in like this prohibition element: no alcohol, no cigarettes. Number one, how the hell did you survive? And has that been lifted now?
No, well, you can buy alcohol now. You still can't buy cigarettes, but luckily I'm not a smoker.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel for the smokers quite a lot. As unfortunately, with most things, prohibition doesn't work.
No, for sure.
You just the most of the guys, or there's a big underworld operating or black market, and unfortunately, it's been extended period now. But from my perspective, I knew the lockdown is coming. I went and bought enough alcohol that kept me through the first 3 weeks, and then unfortunately, it was extended a bit, so I was understocked.
I was going to say, just to understand, to have to buy 3 weeks worth of alcohol, you must have built a second or third garage to store all that. It must have, surely.
No, I actually bought a wine rack. So I'm out of all hard liquor.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I've got left now is a couple of Rustem Fridas that we actually got for our wedding.
Nice.
And we sort of delved into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, Schalk, just for everybody watching, you are a Rugby World Cup winning champion. You've got multiple trophies over the years. But would you say that winning the World Cup for the Springboks last year, November, October, was the highlight of your life in terms of your rugby career?
I think from a rugby perspective, what I saw it created, yes.
Okay.
I think there was some things that was quite special personally, but from what I saw a game of rugby did, there was nothing close to World Cup. I mean, you only now, and South Africa is quite broken. There's a lot of bad news coming out of South Africa before 2019 really, and then in 2019 with all the corruption, the unemployment, there's a lot of bad news, and then coming back from the World Cup and actually seeing what impact sport can have.
Yeah,
I mean, Nelson Mandela did say, I mean, the power of sport is unbelievable. That's why he started himself and Johan Rupert started Laureus.
Yeah,
and then I'm coming back and seeing thousands of people supporting rugby. Irrelevant of your religion, your background, your color, you were supporting one cause. And that was for me, as a 38-year-old, now 39-year-old, extremely emotional. As to see that I can go in places, in townships where I would not put my foot today.
Yeah.
I walked around there giving hugs and receiving hugs and giving love and receiving love. And
That's
there was
amazing.
nothing, that was, from that perspective, I would wish that for our country someday.
So you've got this massive height of excitement and just enthusiasm in the country, and everybody's so driven and so united. And then this pandemic hits. What's the mindset down there at the moment? How is everybody doing? Because obviously you and I both know, for those that haven't been to South Africa, haven't lived there, don't understand the communities in the townships and how close knit these guys are. What's the feeling down there at the moment? How is everybody's mindset?
So from the beginning, I don't know how many of your listeners has been to South Africa, but the big thing is living in the UK, I can understand social distancing. I can understand the background. When Cyril Ramaphosa announced a lockdown, it was quite a very proud moment, as for once we weren't fighting, or they weren't fighting each other, we were fighting a pandemic. Yeah. And that was sort of, okay, let's get together, South Africans, let's stand together, let's fight this, we're going to survive, how can we help each other?
Yeah.
And for it felt like the first 3 weeks we were all on par. Now it becomes a bit more, there is some very interesting lockdown regulations that doesn't make sense. And then unfortunately, we don't have the luxury in our country. We've got quite a big proportion of rich and extremely poor. And you can't expect people that live in a 3x2 meter shack to social distance or stay in their house.
No.
Because it's inhumane to expect someone to stay in their house that's got 4 or 5 people living in that small area. So you can't social distance.
Yeah.
I'm not a from a political background or anything like that. But from a common sense perspective, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But look, from the news side of things, and we all know that news outlets are very quick to report bad news, negativity, like with what's going on at the moment. But there doesn't seem to be any negative stories coming out of South Africa, which is quite nice and refreshing in that, firstly, Cyril Ramaphosa was one of the global leaders that jumped on this first and actually took action and stood by his cause and his reasoning.
Yes.
So that's a huge positivity. Whereas here in the UK, we were bumbling around, do we lock down, do we not? So in terms of that, it's a huge positive, I would say. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's from a statistical perspective, everyone spoke about flattening the curve, making sure that that we can prepare our Medicare to handle the numbers. Currently, we don't have the numbers. And I think we have to thank Cyril for locking down. But I mean, we've got 55,000 people with 7,000 deaths, or don't even think we've got 7,000 deaths.
Right.
So we've got quite a very small minority. So to try to motivate that with people living in a small area, small space, it's quite difficult for them to comprehend why we're still locking down. And then secondly, the repercussions of locking down is people then going with TB, having secondary illnesses, cancer, people, mental illnesses, that we can't quantify always.
So that's one of the things I wanted to touch on. And it's fundamental that we all have a strong mental position at the moment, because it's an indeterminate amount of time. Now, you've faced this throughout your life since 2000, whenever you've professional since 2002 till last year. That's a long career, right? And you're facing giants of the game at, during certain periods who are just undefeatable. How do you take that mentality in where you're consistently being beaten by a specific opponent, but flip it on its head every time you walk out on the field? How do you go about doing that and motivating yourself and your team?
I think, Shane, the big thing that I learned from an early age is we spend so much exactly now with the government, same with COVID, is how much time and energy do you actually spend on things that you can't control? And I can't control what's happening there. What I can control is my attitude and my way of looking at things, the way I interact with my kids, my wife, and the people around me. So from that perspective, I'm still extremely positive.
Yeah.
And same with the rugby perspective, you prepare as much as you can. Yeah, and from a rugby perspective, you never should fear failure.
Yeah,
it's always an opportunity to learn. I've through my rugby career, I've grown the much through failure.
Yeah,
but the big thing about failure is if you fail with the same outset and the same mindset, then you fail. Then it's not successful. But if you learn from your failures, you become a better team, a better individual. And I think from my perspective is always analyze and work as hard as you can. So without hard work and discipline, you can't be successful. Irrelevant. You can get lucky, but you can't be successful. So long-term growth.
Yeah, for sure.
And then how you treat people is everything comes down to culture. And people is the magic ingredient.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So what we're noticing at the moment, I don't know, sort of in Europe, you've got the Bundesliga opening their football leagues. It's a bit odd. You've got a couple of games being played in stadiums with no sound, and it's, the manager screaming at their players. And then you've got them now potentially pumping in some audio. What's happening down in South Africa? Are they pushing for games to reopen, or is rugby starting to train again? When's that going to start happening?
I think from a financial perspective, everyone is feeling the strain from the sponsors, since the image rights to the players themselves. Firstly, they want to play. I mean, I'm no ex-player, but speaking to the players, they don't want to sit at home, train at home. They want to get involved. They want to compete. You want to test your skill sets against other people. Then secondly, unfortunately, from a salary perspective, everyone had to take a massive cut for this year. So everyone's pushing to play the game. And for me, now being a couch potato, I want to watch sport. I mean, although there was a massive growth in esports and gaming, for me personally, I want to see people running into each other, beat the opposition, strategically outplaying each other. So for me, I want to watch it, and everyone wants to get involved. Unfortunately, there's some regulations and some things that need to be put in place
Yeah, no,
for these
absolutely.
guys to play. And like you said, with the Bundesliga, the same thing. Unfortunately, we have to play in weird times, but eventually, hopefully sooner than later, everything will be open.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow UFC, but they've managed to figure out a way to get their fights going as well. And
Yes.
it's just about it's 100% economic, it's 100% financial as well. I mean, like we also need to get sports going to generate. From our point of view, we're in the events game, and make no mistake, sports, while it's sports, is a big time event thing, and it's revenue that the industry needs. So we're looking forward to it. But, you say you're a couch potato now, right? Let's get on to that. So, you retired last year. What are you going to be doing? What's the plan?
So I'll start from a working perspective. I started a company called Remgrow,
Okay.
the investment holding company. So
Yep.
my background is accountancy. So I'm trying to find my feet from that perspective. I think that's quite a challenge for every sports personality or professional sportsman, is actually finding the same kind of enthusiasm, the same kind of drive. So you're quite a driven person if you are in sport.
Yeah.
To find the same kind of fun element. And then from a physical perspective, I've lost now, what is it now, 10, 11 kilograms since I've
Right.
retired. So currently I'm running a lot with my missus that I
Okay.
could never do. And then I'm cycling. I'm getting into mountain biking.
Oh, that's cool. I noticed when I was down, I did a bike trip down in South Africa. We rode from Cape Town up to Windhoek and back on 2 Harley Davidsons with me and my business partner. And that was in February, just
Wow.
before. Yeah, it was really cool. But we got back literally as everything locked down. I completely forgot why I was telling you this. It's completely slipped my mind. Anyway, the point is that what I wanted to raise with you is you retired in 2018 already, right? But then
Yes,
you had a
correct.
chat with Russie about something, and he said something that brought you back. How did that conversation go?
It was actually a text message.
Right.
So I was with the kids and the missus celebrating my career as a rugby player and finishing up. We were just successful with the premiership with Saracens,
Yeah.
won the premiership, and it was sort of a celebration of our career. And the kids were sleeping. Myself and my wife, Glinda, we were having cocktails at 11 o'clock in the night. Out of the blue, I get a text message from Russie if I still want to play rugby. But the problem was I didn't think it was Russie. I thought it was one of my teammates taking the mickey out of me. So he asked me if I was still keen to play. And I sent back, I'm the biggest, strongest, quickest, prettiest. As you see, I'm not pretty. and all those kind of things. And I'm being extremely arrogant on the text messages. And after 3 or 4 text messages, my missus goes, she's a solicitor, so she's the conservative one.
Yeah.
She goes, "Are you sure it's not Russie?" I said, "Clint, I'm 38 years old. I've just retired. Who wants me back?" And then eventually I pick up and phone the number. Guess who answers? Russie. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning in South Africa. I'm going, "Oh no, what have I done?" Anyway, so then I had to go speak to, so I applied. Firstly, I had to discuss it with the family, as it takes a massive sacrifice for the wife and kids for me to be a professional sportsman. So I only slept, was it 15 days and 8 months at home last year in 2019.
Wow.
So that was tough. And then the 2 other people I had to convince, or organizations, was Remgrow or Raynet, where I would have started my career, my next step, and then Cambridge.
Yeah.
So luckily, Johan Rupert said Johan Rupert and Yanni said, "What's the difference if I start working at 38 or 39 for you?" So they luckily agreed, and then Cambridge said they postponed their MBA with 1 year. So that makes it a lot easier.
Does your salary requirement go up as a World Cup winner now?
Unfortunately, I got quite a reality check,
Right.
like I think most sports personalities do. Rugby doesn't pay ridiculously, but the pay is okay.
Yeah.
But then if you start bottom of the food chain from a corporate perspective, it is it's a reality check.
So we obviously watch the World Cup massive. I'm a fair weather rugby fan. I will watch the big tournaments. I'll watch Stormers play as a Cape Townian. But watching this World Cup, there was something special about it. And I think it had something to do with local pride. The Japanese and what the locals did for that team, and the way that they drove that team, the successes that they managed to achieve. Was that something that you noticed while over there? Was that crowd seemed incredible, especially when South Africa played. They were very much behind South Africa as well.
Okay, so firstly, it's always, for me, the interesting part about perception reality. So before we went, we had a get-together as a team and then some big dogs, and from Sora's perspective. And we were told that the Japanese are great people, but they don't love rugby. And they're not known to love rugby. And there's going to be the World Cup is not going to be as great as it was in 95 or 03 or 07 or whenever, because it's the first time that it's been taken to a non-rugby country. We arrived there, Shane, it's unbelievable. Our training session, our first open training session, there is like 10,000 Japanese supporters.
Wow. Actually, was that at the hotel?
No, it was actually at our training session. So when we arrived at the hotel, it was a full welcome. So we were planned to play that weekend. We played against Japan that weekend. So we went 2 weeks early. Yeah. But for me, it was unbelievable. But people don't understand. It was like 38 degrees, 100% humidity, and it was extremely hot. I mean, just during that training session, the guys lost between 3 and 6 kilograms of weight. Wow. But the Japanese were sitting there, waving their things and singing and going crazy. And then during the World Cup, it was for me unbelievable. The Japanese, the supporters, the cultural element. So it felt for me as a Westerner arriving in Japan, it felt like I just landed on Mars. But the people were so friendly. The customs were so amazing. Although I ate too much rice in the first 2 weeks and I picked up 3 kilograms, it was still, for me, it was one of the most special moments I've ever had as a rugby player. And then seeing Japan doing so well while playing a very beautiful brand of rugby.
It was a stunning brand. In fact, I'm going to say it, but I think it was the most beautiful brand of rugby, to be honest. I mean, I thought what they were doing at some point when they played us, when they played you guys, it was a worrying time. It was like, oh shit, right? You can stop playing so beautifully right now. But yeah, it was stunning to watch, man. But you're a big sushi fan, so you would have been in your element there, yes? Is that right?
Yeah, it's quite. Yes, I love sushi. Right. I'm crazy about sushi. But for me, it was quite interesting that we put all kinds of things on our sushi. We deep fry it, or we put mayonnaise on it. They just give the sushi like sashimi straight off the bat. And luckily I like sashimi, but they don't put fancy stuff in there. But all the different other customs, how you bath, the warm bath, how you eat meat, it's just for me quite amazing how things that I've never experienced before. So I'm not badly traveled. I've been around the block, but get to a place like Japan, and the thing is, the people itself, even though a lot of the people I met couldn't speak English and I can't speak Japanese, it's the way they treat you, the way how they respect you. For me, it was just an unbelievable experience. And I told my wife, when she came over, her experience was exactly the same. And I want to give that experience to other people as well. I don't know if it's the difference when you play World Cup or not World Cup, but it was amazing.
Did you take your children over as well? Did they come and watch you play?
No, unfortunately not. Okay. It's a long story. She still works in London for DLA Piper, so she flew via London, did work, came over for a couple of days, and then flew back to South Africa.
Sure. All right, well, look, I was going to play a highlights reel at the beginning. I'll play it at the end, but I've got one more question before I play it, and it is to the tune of Leon Schuster's Here Comedy Boca. It just had to be. The word on the street is you're a bit of a prankster. right? I don't know if that's true or not. Can you justify this? And if so, tell us about that.
There's a lot of things that happens on tour that you actually can't discuss it.
So the answer is yes.
But I mean, the biggest thing about touring, so most of the pranks happen on tour, right?
Right.
So like silly things, like just putting cookies or breadcrumbs in beds.
Okay.
Wetting the bed, or doing all kinds of things, leaving a fish under the bed. So you stay for a week in a hotel room. So you try to hide things that they can't find, but the big secret is never being found out.
Yeah.
So the thing is, unfortunately, with rugby players, there's always a level up, and you must make sure. So there's, I wish I can tell you some stories, but I just can't. It's from, so you start with cookies, and then before you know it, you don't have any gear left. So they burned literally your whole kit. Then you have to go buy new clothes. But it's,
and is there
there's been some good stories.
Are there competitive rivalries? Is there a particular human, like perhaps like Jean de Villiers springs to mind, being like your nemesis in terms of pranks, or was there a particular player that you were always targeting? Like, I got to get him today.
So for me, Jean was my first roommate.
Yeah.
But going on, the guy that is the most brutal when it comes to pranking is R.G. Snyman.
Okay.
So it's he's gone to Munster now.
Yeah.
But when we toured at the Bulls, there were some things that happened during that trip that that's a prankster went, wow, that's way overboard. Yes.
Oh, dude. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Huge congratulations. And honestly, best of luck for the next phase of your career. Do you think you'll get involved in anything commentary related or coaching or anything like that?
As you can see, I've got quite a strong South African or Afrikaans English. So I don't think so. So currently I'm just trying to find my feet from a working perspective, a corporate life. But in one or other way, I would like to be involved with rugby. It's just either if it's watching, helping my kids play the beautiful game. Yeah, I don't care. For me, I'm now a fan.
Good man. Listen, dude, take it easy. Stay safe. Hope your family stays safe as well. Keep well. And I'm going to roll out with this highlights reel. Star player, and congratulations for your career, my friend. Keep well.
Thank you for the love, guys. Have a good week.
Cheers, dude. Keep well.
Bye.
So this is a moment. Curious. It's a final appearance on a rugby pitch for the evergreen Peter Pan of rugby, Schalk Brits.
And welcome back. That was a really, really great conversation. Enjoyed every second of that. Obviously, I'm a massive South African rugby fan. I'm a Springbok through and through. British citizen, Springbok supporter till the day I die, and that's something that's ingrained in you as a young South African growing up. The show is slightly different today. In number one, because our callers were from South Africa, and they swapped schedules, and the whole script is on its head 5 minutes beforehand, so it's a bit topsy-turvy. So forgive us for that. But another reason that it's changed is that I've got a colleague of mine who joined us about 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And he can correct me if I'm wrong. Who said to me at one point in time that he was very keen on getting into sports presenting. and didn't give it a second's thought until such time as we did this. And last night, unbeknown to him, I gave him a call and said, well, if you like this, then we'll jump on. And which is what he's going to do. So after the next segment, Shane will then co-host the show, and he'll be introducing a couple more elements to the show. But before we do that, I wanted to talk to you very briefly about 3D printing. And instead of me standing here yakking about it, I'm going to show you what it is. So let's take a look. In 1981, Hideo Kodama of Nagoya Municipal Industrial Research Institute published his account of a functional rapid prototyping system using photopolymers. A photopolymer, or light-activated resin, is a polymer that changes its properties when exposed to light, often in the ultraviolet or visible region of the electromagnetic spectrum. These changes are often manifested structurally. For example, hardening of the material occurs as a result of cross-linking when exposed to light. In 1984, Charles Hull made 3D printing history by inventing stereolithography, which is the process that lets designers create 3D models using digital data, which can then be used to create a tangible object. Stereolithography, otherwise known as stereolithography apparatus, optical fabrication, photosolidification, or resin printing, is a form of 3D printing technology used for creating models, prototypes, patterns and production parts in a layer-by-layer fashion using photochemical processes, which light causes chemical monomers and oligomers to cross-link together to form polymers. The idea is to hit a vat of liquid photopolymer with a UV laser beam, and the light-exposed portion will instantly turn into a solid piece of plastic, molded to the shape of your 3D model design. Two other technologies were patented during this period as well. Selective laser sintering, which uses powder grains to form 3D printed products, and fused deposition modeling, which uses heat to layer 3D models. These 3D printing models set the foundation for 3D printing. The technology was hugely cost prohibitive in the 80s and 90s, and as a result, adoption was limited to high-cost, low-volume product production. Thus, it became a natural fit for prototyping new products in the aerospace, automotive, and medical industries. 2005 marked the year that 3D printing went on the path to become more mainstream. Many of the early patents began to expire, and inventors and entrepreneurs sought to take advantage of this. A professor in England, Dr. Adrian Boyer's RepRap project, launched an open source initiative to create a 3D printer that could basically build itself, or at least print most of its own parts. Its 2008 release, Darwin, a self-replicating printer that's able to do just that. Suddenly, people everywhere had the power to create whatever stuff they could dream up of on their own. By 2008, his Darwin printer had successfully 3D printed over 18% of its own components, and the device cost less than $650. When the FDM patent fell to the public domain in 2009, more companies were now able to create a variety of 3D printers, and the technology became far more accessible. Due to this, printer prices dropped from over $10,000 to less than $1,000, and a new crop of consumer-friendly 3D printer manufacturers like MakerBot and Ultimaker paved the way for accessible 3D printing. The next generation of additive manufacturing technologies are making their way down from the industrial market to desktops of consumers and retailers, much like FDM did. By 2014, the industry generated more than $1 billion in revenue. But along with the impressive financial impact of the technology, 3D printing also made an impact on how people worked. People were now free to make and create new products on their own without relying on companies or technology firms. This empowering shift is fueling the maker revolution, which now values creation and focuses on open source hardware. According to a 2017 analysis by A.T. Kearney, 3D printing was expected to experience a compound annual growth of 14.3% to nearly $17.2 billion between 2017 and 2020. 2020 and the growth of 3D printers is being rapidly developed by companies like SpaceX and Tesla, who are using large format machines which are capable of printing incredibly strong parts in very large sizes. But then, of course, the worst happened. Step in COVID-19. In March 2020, the 3D printer community stepped into high gear to supply necessary materials and products to combat supply chain shortages. This is something that no industry expert could have predicted. Thousands of 3D suppliers, print specialists, hobbyists, and single machine owners have offered to 3D print masks, respirators, valves, and much more to beat back this virus and aid our frontline workers. At Perception, we joined the 3D printing game in 2019 purely to print small gadgets and accessories to facilitate a better service to our clients and help us tidy up certain processes. Simple clips were printed for joining SDI units to the back of monitors, down to logos and compartment boxes. We only currently own one machine, but we have had it running for nearly 24 hours a day, every day since April 4th. And the purpose was to print headbands for PPE. We have proudly been working alongside thousands of printer owners and the non-profit organization 3D Crowd to produce frames for the clear shields to be mounted to. It's a small contribution, but we are very proud to be a part of such a great community of people giving up their time to make a big difference. We will continue to do so until such time as we find our way back to producing the events that we love.
Patrick, thank you very much for the introduction. You are right, about 2.5 years I have been working at Perception and known you for about 3 years. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. As Patrick mentioned, it is a dream one day to potentially do some sports presenting. So let's see how we go with the first show. Our next guest is also from South Africa. It's a very dear friend of mine, Michelle van Eyden. She is the sponsorship director at Vodacom. I've known her for many years and we've worked on many events across the country. She's been involved with events pretty much her whole career, from sports to rugby to life events, horse racing. So I think we should bring Michelle in and let's just have a conversation with her. Hi, Michelle, how are you? Good, good. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. So just while we just sort that out over there. Michelle, the first question I have for you, how has COVID affected the way in which sponsorships have been run in South Africa at the moment? Yep. Sorry, not sure what's happening over there. I don't know, Michelle, can you hear me? Okay, no, that's fine. There's no problem at all. So as I said, I've known Michelle for about 6 years now. We started at the agency together, and she's moved on to Vodacom, and we obviously stayed in touch with my move over to London, and she's been a very instrumental part of my career and how I've grown as an individual in the events world. So I do owe her a lot.
Shane, while we're trying to get the guys to sort out the technical issue, I think we've got Michelle in your ears, is that right? But not coming out, not on the feed. Okay, yeah. Michelle, apologies from a distance. There seems to be a technical issue from the audio side of things. Shane, let's talk very quickly based on that, your experience in the industry. You've obviously come into the event world now, and you're working on sort of, I guess, the business development side of things. You've come from a sponsorship element, an area of your career. Why the jump? Firstly, why jump to the UK? And then why change career?
I think it's a very good question. I do get asked that a lot. Why the jump? I decided to make the jump when I was about 27. I wanted to sort of be a little bit older to come over to London and experience what London would have to offer. My parents have very graciously tried to push me since I was about 20 to come over, but I believed I wanted to grow and become an individual before I came over. And I think the jump from sponsorship back into events, which is where my career started, it was a very easy jump, and I thought it was a very good jump for me to look back and get back to the events world. And I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. I mean, obviously doing audiovisual is not something that I sort of grew up on, but I've learned very quickly, and I enjoy the industry that we're in, the people that we meet, and the events that we actually put on. So it's a very good industry, I believe, to be a part of.
And how would you say going forward? So if anybody is out there in South Africa, obviously, let's assume pandemic gets lifted, and you've got thousands of people looking for career opportunities worldwide. How would you describe the jump from working in South Africa to then coming to London? You've been here 3 years now. You've had time to sort of adjust. I certainly remember my adjustment period being about 6 months of hating every second of every minute of every day, because it's not the lifestyle you're used to. It's no outdoors. There's no weather. You're getting fines for everything. You can't drive here because of congestion charges, etc., etc. Now, I just spat out a whole bunch of negativity, but how have you found it at the moment, and how would you say that transition's gone for you?
I definitely think the transition was, as you mentioned, 6 months to a year. I was very fortunate. I had a lot of family over here that obviously assisted, and my family and support network back in South Africa. Growing up as an only child was obviously hard, to leave the nest and leave the parents behind. But they encouraged me to pursue the opportunities to come over here. I think from that point of view, I found the adjustment fairly a little bit easier than what I thought. You obviously mentioned everyone stays inside, but I believe put on a jacket, go outside, just enjoy London. It is a huge adjustment, but I think it is an adjustment that if you have your head on your shoulders properly and you just look towards the future, and you're obviously bettering yourself and your career opportunities, which is one of the main reasons of obviously coming over here.
What would you say is primarily one of the most positive things about the move? Because as a youngster, I remember coming over. I came over in 2005 with the prospect of making millions of pounds and then going back and buying South Africa. That's the mentality you have as a youngster. You think all these pounds and the value of the pounds. And when you get here, you realize that actually, no, the ratio still applies and things are very, very expensive here. So you're earning good money, but it's very expensive to live here. How have you found that?
I think you are right. When you go back home with pounds, everyone thinks, oh, you're just paying for all the beers and paying for all the rounds. That is the case, obviously, sometimes, and it does work. But I think transitioning to living over here, it is very much cost effective. It's a very difficult, I believe, transition to go over here as well from that aspect. I think one of the highlights for me, obviously moving over, and one of the positives was being able to walk to work, walk to the shops, which is not something that you do in South Africa because everyone has cars. Whereas here, you jump on your bicycle or you just go for a walk. I mean, I did a 19-mile ride into the office today. First time in about 3.5 months I've seen the office.
Now, right. I will say this categorically. You say that to any South African and they'd be like, are you mad, right? What is the point of that?
Yes, I mean, I think to the point is obviously exercise is the one thing. I mean, I quite enjoy that, but people wouldn't cycle 19 miles, well, for South Africans, 32 odd kilometers to get to work. I mean, they would happily drive that, but they wouldn't say, well, let me get on my bicycle and go. I'm not sure why. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I came through the countryside, I rode over London Bridge, and it was since this lockdown, I've had to experiment with my ways of getting around, moving out of London. There's no buses as frequent, obviously, during the pandemic, you don't want to. So cycling has become the way of transport, and I personally wish I'd picked it up 2 years ago when I used to live about 6 miles from the office.
So the irony is that because of a conversation we've just had, I've remembered what I was starting to say to Schalk a second ago in the interview earlier, and it had to do with riding, and that you do a lot more of that over here, and the fitness level thing is certainly not something that you consider back home. In a way, I'm going to say it's a relatively unhealthy lifestyle in that it's a lot of red meat, it's a lot of drinking alcohol, and very little in terms of sort of being proactive about health and fitness. Now, that is a huge sweeping generalization, so please don't send hate mail. But what I'm trying to say is that certainly in this melting pot of which is London, the community and the people that live here are certainly far more health focused. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do believe so. I mean, we took on a challenge as a company last month to do 10,000 steps a day. Now, in London and the UK specifically, it's very easy to do 10,000 steps. Only a couple of us took part in it. But in South Africa, I used to take part in the challenge as well. And our previous guest, Michelle, her and I used to compete in that, and it was actually a lot harder to get 10,000 steps. People have to go to the gym in South Africa if they want to get exercise, and I believe I was part of the gym community in South Africa as well, whereas here you don't need it. You can actually walk to work, and you're building up your fitness levels that way as well. It's
quite ironic actually you saying that. You've got in South Africa, you've got the capability of going up mountains, and you've got the capability of running along beaches, and you do have the facility there in the space and all of that. to do the training, but you just don't. It's elective. And one of the things that you and I did last year to bring into this fitness thing is that we decided to raise some money for charity. We wanted to raise £2,500 for
the ZSL.
That's right. For ZSL Conservation Charity. Conservation is quite close to both of our hearts, being African. And what it was is climbing 3 of the UK's biggest mountains in a period of 24 hours. Walk everybody that's watching through how that was and why the hell you would ever even consider doing that.
It was a challenge that Patrick, because I turned 30 last year and Patrick turned 40, so he decided let's do something phenomenal for the year. So we decided let's look something up, and we found the 3 peaks. So it started in January. Patrick's training started about 3 days before. we did it in August, so I mean his training went very well. I mean I think from that perspective it's just to take on a different challenge, a walking challenge in 24 hours. So we did roughly about 12 and a half hours of climbing itself, and then the rest of the time was driving between the mountains. You get an average driving time of about 10 and a half hours. And it was one of the toughest things I've ever done, I will say. We both pulled through. I trained fairly hard for it, as I always do. But it's definitely one of the best things I've ever done in my life, and I would definitely consider doing it again.
Well, I would definitely not agree with you. I will not do it again. I think it was a horrendous experience. Although I caveat that with once on the mountain, it was really enjoyable. The fitness part, I don't mind. It was the 24 hours in a van, like just waiting for the next mountain. I think squeezing, and one of the downsides as well as is that we did it in such a short period of time. We didn't get to take it all in and enjoy it. So I'd gladly do it again, but I'd do it over 3 days next time and take in the environment and the beauty that is Wales, England and Scotland. So we unfortunately have lost Michelle. It's a known fact that South African internet is pretty difficult to deal with. It's very expensive as well. So we've had, unfortunately, a dropout. We do, however, have an artist on the line for the next segment, which is our performance segment. So straight back to him.
Welcome back, guests. So Patrick, thank you very much for that. Yeah, apologies for losing Michelle there. I'm sure we'll be able to get her back on one of the next shows. So our next guest is a lady by the name of Emily Faye. She is a singer. She's got a sweet concoction of both the Nashville and the English country sort of singing that she's got for her as well. Just wanted to sort of have a quick chat with her, see what she's all about. I believe we do have a video of her as well, which let's just get a little bit of intro for her.
When I wake up, I wish I could tell you good morning. And the smile on your face won't be my phone screen calling. All the little big things, brown paper and string, got me wrapped up in your arms. Got me tangled up, all tied in knots, 'cause you're so far. I'll keep holding on to a little bit of something. Just keep holding on to the little bit of feeling. Just keep holding, waiting. Don't let it slip through. I'll keep holding on to a little bit of you.
Hi, and welcome back. Emily, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you,
Great
of
to be
course.
here.
We definitely have one of the better backgrounds that we have seen on the show, which is which is a really nice thing to see. I mean, I know when I do stuff from home, it's you got dogs in the background and you got people screaming, so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't guarantee my dog won't bark. It may happen, but
that's fine.
Fingers crossed.
We're all happy for the dog. How have you kept yourself busy during lockdown?
So obviously, pretty much the music industry has kind of come to a standstill in terms of live shows. So they've kind of been moved online, really. So I've been doing a few live streams, taking over other people's Instagram and Facebook's accounts and things like that. And also writing online via Zoom. So having a writing session, via Zoom, which has been really cool. So yeah.
That's lovely. I believe you released one of your first singles back in 2018. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so I released a song called Open Road back in 2018, and and with that came a full EP, and I recorded out in Nashville, and the song's actually about my parents going off in their camper van and about their love for each other, basically.
Oh, lovely. That's really nice. And obviously, so what's next for you, Emily? What's on the cards? Obviously, given this pandemic, what's going on? I mean, what are you looking forward to coming out of lockdown, and what's next for you?
Yeah, so I mean, during lockdown, I have been writing quite a lot, so maybe 7 songs a week, something like that. Well, in the beginning, when motivation was high, I was doing 7 songs a week. Now I'd say it's 1 or 2, just because, I don't know, it's hard to keep on churning them out, so often.
Yes.
But yeah, I've just released a brand new single, which is the start of a brand new chapter for me, music-wise, I feel. So yeah, so I'm really excited about how on earth I'm going to follow that, basically, and that's what I'm trying to plan at the moment.
I think one of the hardest things during lockdown is to actually keep a schedule on a day-to-day basis, obviously not getting up and going to work. It's a very strange thing. Has anything sort of stood out for you that you've made sure that you've got up at a certain time to do certain things? Is there anything like that you have done during lockdown?
Well, exercise has been like the one thing I've kept consistent. So like I've had certain days for runs, certain days for HIIT workouts type thing. So that's mainly the one kind of consistent thing that I have always done, just to keep mental health, physical health all in check, especially mental health, because obviously lockdown has kind of taken away every single plan I had for the year musically. So obviously doing stuff that makes you feel good has to be done, I think. Lovely. So that's definitely ramped up, yeah.
And the last question before we go to your live performance, what's the strangest thing you found yourself doing or have done during lockdown?
Ooh, that's a good question. The strangest. Probably just lying in the garden, listening to the trees blow in the wind. Yep. I mean, it's not that strange, but if someone was watching me, they might think I was a bit strange. But it felt good to do that. But that's probably the strangest thing. And procrastinating, but that's not really very strange. But exactly. I've learned a lot that I am a procrastinating person.
I think given what's going on, I think it's normal. And then obviously before we go live to your performance, where can people get your music?
So I have a website, which is www.emilyfayemusic.com. I have an online store on there. So I've got one EP available at the moment. The other one's sold out. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media. You can get my music at Spotify or wherever you find your music. It should be there. And it's all just Emily Faye Music.
Lovely, and we'll put up a couple of links on the website after the show today. So Emily, over to you. Enjoy the performance, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to play you my new single, which is the most honest song I've ever written. So I really hope you like it. And it's always a little bit scary when I play it. But yeah, it's called Fearless, and I hope you like it. I'll say that I'm fine when I'm not really fine. And if I'm being honest, that's most of the time. My skin's wearing thin, hiding my hurt behind a grin. Trying to keep the shade out, let the sun shine in. A little more battered and bruised, the sharp sting from your point of view. The zone I'm in, you know it ain't comfortable. I wanna be fearless, I wanna feel cool. Stop comparing every part of me to you. And I wanna see myself the way others do.
gotta grow through. I gotta grow through. And fear's always gonna be riding shotgun next to me. So it's time to put brave in the driver's seat. Discovered a few home truths. No apology, no excuses. Make it till you make it. Doesn't work for us all. I wanna be fearless. I wanna feel cool. Stop comparing every part of me to you. And I wanna see myself the way others do. Maybe it's something, oh, something I gotta grow through. I gotta grow through. It's not always about what's on the surface. We're trying so hard to be perfect. I just wanna be fearless. I wanna feel cool. Stop comparing every part of me to you. And I wanna see myself the way others do. Maybe it's something, oh, something. Please let it be something, oh, something. Gotta grow through. I gotta grow through. I gotta grow through.
Thank you.
Emily, that was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Everyone, please go and download that. That is definitely going to be added to my tracks for on the cycle home. Emily, thank you very much and stay safe.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You. Well, everybody, please go and check out Emily's profile. Guys, on to our next segment of the week, which is Meme of the Week. So sit back and enjoy some laughs.
Meme van die week.
You can't do that, bitch. That ain't no vert. That's not vert.
I'm out, mug out, outside. We gon' show what we about. All my niggas really gang bang, talk that damn slang. Rap about it, do the same thing. Listen up, thing. We gon' put up nigga on.
Oh no, it's wet. It's wet. Fuck.
Hey, somebody come get her, she dancing like a stripper. Hey, somebody come get her, she dancing like a stripper.
Look, I just flipped the switch. I don't know nobody else.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve slowly in a pool of your love. I don't even know how the chemistry works when
Et les gens dans les pas, les filles ont les têtes.
I got a challenge for y'all. I got 50 for anybody that can do this.
Ever since I started popping women in my crib, I don't even fuck it on my homie, call the dibs. Always keep protection on me, I ain't talking.
I'm sucking the broke.
I know, right? I'd be pissed.
Yeah!
Oh!
We both.
The balloons are too full.
Yeah! Harder! Harder!
Best video ever.
Oh!
Don't you do it.
Yeah. Oh!
God damn it, Alex!
Oh!
My grandma's dead. This is. Oh no! Run it!
Here we go. Pop goes the wheel.
Meme van die week. That is literally my favorite part of doing this. I think we put a show together just so I could do the meme section at the end. It's just hilarious. I mean, if you can't laugh at that kind of stuff, then yeah, you need to get your head checked. Look, we did this show on the basis that we were trying to showcase how we could go about facilitating a virtual event for you, and by you, I mean anyone. This could be a training session. This could be a sales seminar. This could be a conference. This could be literally anything. And we have the facility here in-house, in our studio. We've started to get a number of requests, as already mentioned. A number of our clients are now starting to emerge and asking us, what can we do? What are the capabilities, to the point where we've actually got some work in and some signed off purchase orders in the bank today, so to speak. They are for the end of this month, but what we're seeing is that this progressive rollover of people understanding that this is not, it's not going away anytime soon. So huge bonus to see that money is starting to surface. And because of that reason, we've decided we're going to step back from doing this show for a while, mainly for that reason, so we can focus on delivering sort of solutions to our customers and focus solely on them, and rather than the show. The show was something that we put together to sort of facilitate or sort of fill a bit of time, which we've done, and we've showcased what we are capable of doing, sometimes not so well, like today, for example. But the fact is that it's down to us that, you know, as presenters, we're not presenters and we're not getting it right. what I would say is that we will be focusing on our clients, and we're really looking forward to the next phase. And one of the other reasons that we're moving on from this is that we are noticing now that everybody that's got a camera and a computer is now doing their own version of a podcast or a webcast or some kind of show. So it's a bit samey, and we want to move on from that. We want to step it up to the next gear, be ahead of the curve like we were with this show. So we've got some ideas in the pipe that will come to the table with a brand new show, some really cool new ideas. But until then, I'd really like to say thanks to all of you for watching. We've really had fun doing it. And we will come back with a new version of the show that we think is going to be much, much better, far more polished. We'll actually rehearse. Today, no rehearsals done. So you can see quite obviously. So just before I leave you, we are obviously open for business. We have brought a number of our furloughed employees back into the fold so that we can start focusing on delivering to our clients, start selling to them again, because now they're starting to listen, they're starting to show interest. And one of the other areas of our business is that we've set up a shop to facilitate the sale of products that would help you work remotely, but also, safety and all that kind of thing. So please do go visit it. It's perceptionlive.com/remote. And you can navigate there to the live section, which you're on now, or you can navigate to the shop. It's entirely up to you. I think the last thing I'd have to say is a huge thank you to my co-host, Shane, to the entire team here at the moment. We've got Harry, the developer. We've got Craig, who is doing obscene things at the moment that I can see through the... and I was talking in my ear. We've got Tim, who's done an incredible job on developing everything here in the studio. Gareth, our ever-present stage manager. Is that even a role? Is that your role here? Kind of like firefighter, he likes to call himself. Chief firefighter. Eye candy. Yeah, good one. I like that. But the team is growing. And then, of course, we've got our cameraman who's now sort of not on camera, Mike, who's right there. Without this team, this wouldn't have been possible. We love working with all of these guys. This team is solid. And I think if you give us a call and let us produce your event, you'll see that. Until the next show, love you, leave you, see you soon.